Ladies and gentlemen, I may have been a little late for this episode, but there is so much to break down in this new, awesome episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, so let's go ahead and get into it. So, this episode picks up, obviously, where the previous episode left off. After killing Riko, Toji tells Geto he killed Gojo, which unleashes Geto's anger, and like I said in the last episode, man, the facial expressions this season are so good. It's not like they weren't bad in the first season, but there is a clear step up in game between season 1 and season 2 of this series. We then see Geto use his cursed spirit, and I think it's called Rainbow Dragon, and you can see here just how fluid it is and how good the animation is. And I'm not kind of sure what kind of animation techniques or the people who worked on this scene are, but the people that worked on this scene and really this entire episode really do need a raise because it was really phenomenal. And I love how the camera leans back as you see Gojo's cursed spirit just rip into all of this cement and brick, and the particles of the debris makes it just looks so good. And it looks even better as the cursed spirit Rainbow Dragon just emerges from the smoke as it sort of hugs him as he leaves, but eventually leaves him behind. Just such a nice little detail that makes it look even more realistic than it already does. I think it's also low-key kind of funny to see Toji like blind fire from this cursed spirit's mouth, which Geto promptly actually blocks with a cursed spirit to counter. Slowly so far, I think this shows that Geto has the upper hand currently in the fight, which is obviously a far cry from what actually happens, but it's also a really nice scene too. And it's such a sight seeing the cursed spirit rip through this building like tissue paper. Also, holy hell, Toji is so powerful. And by the way, as a manga reader, you guys really have no clue how powerful this guy is or how awesome he is. However, I did do a 25 facts on Toji video if you are interested, so check that down in the comments below. Toji mentions the Tombs of the Star and the Forbidden Vault. This is important because it uses barriers that conceal it. However, the trick for Toji is really twofold here, and it's really simple to overcome for him. Basically, since there are no guards around, there are holes and doors, and if he knows where those are, he can just simply walk into it. But Toji also reveals why he could come in hidden, because Toji has 0 cursed energy. That's right, 0. None. Sort of like Maki in this series. The downside is he can't use the cursed tool. However, how he gets around this is really smart. He basically uses his cursed spirit, crushes it down to a very small size, and swallows it. So if you think of it this way, Toji has a mobile armory always inside of him where he can store high valuable and high energy cursed tools. I also love them walking through these halls, passing a lot of these beautiful panels that have all of these beautiful patterns on them. Sort of reminds me of like an intense stare down you'd see in like Kill Bill or something like that. He also says he could have killed Riko first, but didn't want to because Six Eyes would detect him. And which kind of makes me a little angry, honestly. I'm still kind of salty over Toji killing Riko, because Riko was just such I don't know, just such a different kind of character with a different kind of energy. But Geto knows that Toji has a heavenly pact, aka a heavenly restriction, which if you're confused, it's basically a cursed restriction that trades a cursed energy for some kind of change to the user's body. So think of it this way. Toji traded using cursed spirits or cursed techniques for being able to do what he is able to do here, which is be insanely strong and powerful and almost impervious. So instead of using cursed spirits, he basically has to use cursed tools like Maki does, or just normal weapons like the pistol he had. But listen to this. If you weren't scared by Toji already, Toji was able to track them down even though they hid their cursed energy through conventional means, like just, you know, tracking them on foot. And Geto then asks him about Miss Kuroi, and he doesn't really seem to care about her, which shows that he has this carefree bad boy sort of attitude. He doesn't really have to care because he's so strong and so undetectable that, well, might as well just do and be whatever you want, right? So once again, Geto in anger unleashes his curse, which man, just obliterates even more of this poor, beautiful structure. I really feel bad for the cleanup crew for this, but however, Toji blocks it with his cursed tool, which looks a lot like a smaller Tetsaiga from like Inuyasha. Really cool looking weapon. We also then get this awesome shot of this massive hole that Rainbow Dragon left, showing just how destructive it is and how destructive in general cursed spirits and Geto in particular can be. Geto then fires cursed energy at him, which Toji is just having the time of his life falling through the air here. Such a cool expression on his face. Geto then summons another cursed spirit, which is this big ogre looking thing. Just really cool, destroying even more of this poor structure. Even so, Rainbow Dragon, Geto's cursed spirit, is literally sliced through, which, man, shocks Geto to the core because Rainbow Dragon has the strongest hide. So, I mean, he's basically impervious to the most physical damage than other curses would be. And no doubt, it was shocking as we can see in slow motion here, Geto slice through this dragon in a really great shot, but ultimately like a hot butter knife to butter. So the structure begins to break away into a free fall where Toji uses some sort of cursed manipulation called riffraff, which is then seemingly countered? I was very confused here. Someone put in the comments if I'm reading this right. Geto then uses a cursed spirit. And this is where we see a potential apparition who really has zero self-esteem, by the way. And these work pretty simple if you don't know already, as it deploys a simple domain which stops all of basically violence between the two until an answer is given to the apparition's question, which is in this case, am I pretty? So Toji basically just tells her that, no, she's not his type, but he brings out his cursed spear, which remember, can break and nullify any and all curses. So basically, Toji rejected this woman and then just kind of broke her curse with this crazy overpowered weapon. Geto then uses cursed manipulation on Toji, which, if you're confused, also is very simple. He is allowed to take in curses that surrender to manipulate them, and if there is, say, for example, a 2-grade difference, he can skip that entire process and just make them submit outright, absorbing them. So basically, he plans to do that to Toji and the cursed spirit that he has. However, he learns quickly, it doesn't exactly work. This is key because Geto sees that Toji's cursed spirit is not stronger than his, so he plans to take him out that way by locking down his armory, basically, aka all of his weapons inside the cursed spirit. But Geto is quickly brought down to earth as Toji simply destroys him. But even so, in a surprising move, he doesn't kill Geto because of his cursed spirits and what may happen if he were to die and unleash all of them, which is a good question. What would happen if Geto died? He's absorbed so many cursed spirits over time that you would have to think something that would be something of a catastrophic thing to happen. And as he's telling him this, we see this shot of Kuroi and Riko left in a pool of their blood, which symbolizes how Toji really played them just so easily and with little to no trouble at all. And as he tells them to never forget this moment, he clearly sees an image of Megumi, which he has, well, this reaction to. A very interesting reaction, I would say, but he was revealed here to basically be Megumi's father and actually the one to name Megumi, which, as we know from last week, we didn't exactly know how his relation was to Megumi, but now we know he is for sure the parent and father of Megumi. And we also got to see Megumi's mother too, which is a very important aspect about Toji's character. Whew. Now we get into one of the coolest parts of this episode. Now at the Star Religious Group headquarters, which is where they transport Riko's corpse to with basically zero respect, just dropping her down on the table as if none of it even mattered. The founder pays them and even gives them a bonus, but interestingly, Toji here also mentions her limbs intact, which just makes me think they're gonna use her for something in this church, which I don't even want to think. But it's then revealed that they were hired knowing that basically the assassination plan as they know it would have went poorly. And he also reveals their origins to this society's origins, the Star religious group, to start in the Nara era, which in real life took place between CE 710 to 794, nearly about 85 years, which is the same time that Tengen began practicing as well. So basically, this organization has a sort of grudge over centuries even, and their organization was given birth through a lot of the turmoil of that time. So they've devoted themselves to be non-sorcerers. That's their entire thing. So what they did here is basically stay silent for centuries while they nearly lost everything for this one chance, one shot in the dark, which sadly was Riko Amanai. Also realize how crazy their plan sort of is, because even Shiyu Kong points out that Tengen losing power may be what crumbles humanity, but even so, these crazy ass people, they believe that if that is what happens, it will happen. Even Toji thinks he's crazy, and he's the guy who went one-on-one with Gojo and Geto, which that should be crazy enough. As they're leaving, it's revealed that Shiyu Kong actually didn't kill Misato Kuroi despite giving the order to. And Shiyu Kong basically did it because it would wear Gojo down even more, because he would always be reminded of his failure, and it kind of just leaves Miss Kuroi in despair, and it's such a horrible thing to think about what she's probably going through. But Toji then invites Shiyu Kong to a meal, but it's revealed that Shiyu Kong actually doesn't really like Toji and would rather only see Toji in work or in hell. Yeesh. But honestly, I can't blame him. Toji really does seem kind of like an asshole and very flippant because, well, as we stated before, he's kind of got this carefree attitude and he doesn't really need to care. Little did Toji know, however, but his day was about to get a lot worse, as a bloodied up Gojo, absolutely broken and beaten, shows up at the facility. And Toji is simply in shock after the sight of him just arriving there, let alone the actual shape he's in. It's revealed here that Gojo survived by basically using a reversed curse technique, which he did as soon as he was first stabbed in the throat. This is because cursed energy is negative energy and cannot regenerate or heal the body. Basically, what he did to get around that was he multiplied the cursed energy against each other to make it positive energy. Basically, it's really simple. Two negatives make a positive. And of course, he layered on top of that his limitless ability. Toji as well notices Gojo's unique mental state, as he basically says he's pretty much high right now. And Gojo has a great line here. He basically tells Toji that the reason he'll lose here is because he didn't chop his head off, which is just such a badass line. So Toji fights the stoned Gojo and thrusts his blade, and we see this really cool animation where Toji just switches the angle of the blades and the way he's handling it. Really neat little trick there, but Gojo then blocks it and uses Curse Technique Reversal Red, which shoots this amazing looking red orb that Toji just barely blocks. And I love this shot right after, as Toji is simply just floating totally out of his mind. I've seen some people talk about this, how it looks better in the manga. I'm not sure I would agree with that outright, but I definitely get their point, and I think that's definitely a fair observation. I do think they both look different. However, this scene just looks absolutely phenomenal. Toji then connects the dots as he uses his limitless technique with negative cursed energy. So this is kind of like a breakdown here. 1, power to stop, neutral application of limitless. 2, power to attract, amplified application of the limitless technique blue. And then 3, power to repel, the reversal of curse technique red. It's really complicated, but basically, to boil it down, Gojo has total control over all of the curse techniques he uses, and using limitless, he can combine a lot of techniques and basically work around some of the negatives of it, synergizing all of these techniques together. It's really actually smart. Toji does sense something is off before he goes in for his final attack, but it ignores it, as he attacks Gojo in one of just the coolest moments in this fight, as Gojo is in this euphoric trance, dodges his attacks. This then effortlessly leads into Gojo's monologue as he looks up to the sky, apologizing to Riko, mid-dodge by the way, still in the battle, as he looks into the sky. And in this, he's just in this vulnerable moment, and he says to himself that he just can't be angry. He can't be angry at Riko or anyone, because at this moment, he's just amazed at the world. And it really does feel that something was taken away from Gojo in this moment. A piece of him was taken with Riko Amanai. And the same for Geto as well. We'll talk about this later. Gojo realizes as well that Toji is from the Zenin clan, and he also may know about Gojo's limitless technique, but not this final technique. So let's just go ahead and get into this and just break it down. This is a crazy moment. As this plays out, time freezes as this beautiful music plays with amazing looking art. Truly just incredible looking stuff here. Gojo's technique is to take amplified and reversal and then basically smash the two together to create and push out imaginary mass, which he calls, aka imaginary technique purple. It's revealed that Toji wanted to bring Gojo down to his knees just to see the greatest sorcerer of the modern age fall, and as well get revenge for the Zenin clan for rejecting him. And this is a really cool introspective moment juxtaposed between Gojo's monologue and Toji here, because Toji basically realizes here that he twisted himself into believing what he believed and what he thought he could do. And that is the key moment that he knew that he lost, as half of his torso is obliterated by Gojo's purple technique. This, by the way, is a very, very, very classic Japanese storytelling kind of moment. You always see this in old Japanese films and old Japanese literature, that it's not exactly the blow or the final fight that makes them lose. It's something internal. It's something internal within the character. Something they did many, many years prior that's very idyllic that got them killed in the first place. It's such a great, nice little thing, and I love it. Toji then recalls Megumi's mother as he tells himself he thought he would live life caring for no one, not even himself. A true carefree kind of attitude. And his last words are to Gojo, who tells him that Megumi will be sold off by the Zenin clan in years' time, and then seemingly dies. Because, of course he would. I mean, look at him. And really, what an incredible moment in JJK, and what an accomplishment from Mappa for being able to pull all of this off. However, we're not done yet, as there is one after credits scene here. We see Toji's cursed spirit crawl to Geto, as he then runs into the facility seeing Gojo carrying the body of Riko Amanai, surrounded by these religious people dressed in white in this white room, all of them clapping, which is low-key just kind of off here. Something very sinister about this, something very detached, and it's unsettling. Geto even asks if this is Gojo, the person before him. He almost doesn't recognize him. Then it sinks in what has happened, as Geto blames himself for what happened to Riko, and as well, Gojo does too. So he asks Geto if they should just kill all the people here, which is mightily disturbing and understandable, but still something you would just never hear from Gojo, which shows in this moment that Gojo is completely broken. The death of Riko Amanai has affected Gojo in such a way that we've never seen before, and I imagine in due time, we could probably do an entire character analysis on how the death of Riko Amanai totally changed everything in JJK. And I think it's the same for Geto as well. I think Geto was really affected by Riko Amanai's death. But Geto tells him here that there is no point to kill any of these people, as the real masterminds have fled and they can't even outrun any of this anyway, so they're going to be dissolved eventually. Basically saying they're not going to get away with it, so what's the point of killing anyone here? And then Gojo simply says, is there a point? Reflecting a little bit here, Geto says in his head that there is, especially for sorcerers, as remember, they can't hurt humans. So basically here, Gojo said, let's break the rules, let's kill and slaughter these people. And for Geto, he doesn't want to break those rules. He feels he needs to follow them. So put down in the comments below, what did you guys think about this newest episode of JJK? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below and some of the things that you caught that maybe I missed. So thank you for watching. If you haven't already, become a patron where you will get access to my arc by arc review of each One Piece arc. We're working on a massive 25-page Arabasta review right now, and that will be coming out soon. So thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.